concerns us all, particularly the upper riparian countries of the Nile. And most of you must have been aware of what's going on there in New York, and also what had been in the last consecutive UN Security Council meetings, particularly regarding the GARD. Kenya did the best of the job. It made us all proud for breaking the silence twice against all the pressures and against all the odds. The other time, Indians tried their best, and some other friends pledged a lot, but when it comes to push the shove, it was Kenya who stood fast and tried to save us all. But as you know, we believe the GERD issue, the Nile issue, even though we Ethiopians have begun a larger dam, so far the largest one, but we believe it's the right of all of us to make the best use of the resources that we have, and then we all share, and we have the right to have access and utilize for the benefit of our people without causing any significant harm to any of us. That's what Ethiopia had always been believing and always been expressing. We still are committed to that, but again, we oppose by all means any monopolistic aspiration in nature and claim that a single country or two thinking that they have all the right to use, but to deny the right of the others to have access to our common resources. What is now being transpired in New York asserts that unfounded and very much unfair claim. So currently, the government of Egypt, with the support of Sudan and Tunisia, is pushing for an outcome of the UN Security Council that would have a far-reaching consequence on Ethiopia as well as the other upper riparian countries. That's why Ethiopia wants us to bring to your respective governments its concern that we have to stand together to protect our rights for a reasonable use from the Nile. That means the downstream riparian countries, along with Tunisia, actually trying to get a decision on the so-called historical rights on the use of River Nile, which will actually arrest the hands of all upper riparian countries. Furthermore, they are also pushing to make the Nile issue a permanent agenda for the Security Council, which again would be detrimental for all upper riparian countries. In light of this, Ethiopia appreciates if all of you could contact your missions in New York to stand together for a reasonable use by all of us. As you might recall, the draft resolution circulated by Tunisia for adoption in July was not accepted by the United Security Council members. However, Tunisia has continued circulating a draft presidential statement for adoption by the Council members. The contents of the draft presidential statement circulated by Tunisia solely demonstrates the two downstream countries' monopolistic claims that deny Ethiopia's and other upper riparian countries' legitimate rights to use the Nile water. The draft is intended to take away the matter from the African Union and undermines the internationally accepted principle of equitable and reasonable utilization of transboundary waters. The United Nations Security Council members, in their last session on the GERD, encouraged Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan to continue negotiation to resolve the outstanding issues through the facilitation. It is important to recall that the GERD is a hydroelectric dam project that does not consume water. It is being built to ensure Ethiopia's energy security, alleviate abject poverty, and meet its needs of its people. In fact, it is also a beacon of coming together, getting integrated, and enjoying our common resource to bring about betterment to our common people. The GERD will be also benefit to downstream countries in several ways, including regulating the flow of water, enhancing sediment management, uplifting energy generation, increasing regional water capacity, and reducing floods, among others. As you all know, currently, Sudan is suffering from flood, And the news has it that about 52 people have lost their lives. Had we completed our dam, they could have been saved. But against all odds, Sudan's government is not serving its national interest, but it is showing its interest to be party to the other, rather than saving its own people, helping Ethiopia to complete this dam. Therefore, the GERD is not a project that could pose any threat to regional peace and security. It would rather play a very important role for cooperation and regional integration. Ethiopia therefore requests the upper riparian countries to add their voice in support of AU-led process and to encourage Egypt and Sudan to negotiate in good faith to reach a mutually acceptable outcome. The AU process, regarding the AU process, the African Union is seized of the trilateral negotiation on the GERD during the recent AU Assembly Bureau held on 24 June 2021. The chairman of the AU, His Excellency President Felix Anthony Tshisekedi, presented an update of the ongoing negotiations and shared his plan for a dedicated Bureau meeting over the GERD. He underscored also the commitment of the AU and the need to reach a mutually acceptable outcome under the auspices of the AU. He also introduced his plan of calling AU Bureau to discuss the matter. Therefore, the AU process remains available for facilitation of the talks to help the three countries reach a mutually acceptable outcome. The AU facilitation platform is allowing the three countries to deliberate on their concerns and underlying interests in a friendly atmosphere. However, Egypt and Sudan tried all means to undercut the process and even obstructed AU-led trilateral negotiations 9 times, just for no tangible reason. Nevertheless, the EU chairman and its commission are finalizing their preparations to facilitate the next round of negotiations, either end of August or beginning of September. But against all of this, now Tunisia still is pressing other countries hard. Egypt also trying to bring the matter so that to force Security Council to come into some sort of resolution, which hinders the AU-led process and also which discourages the coming together and cooperative nature of the riparian countries, both upper and lower riparian countries, to come together and defend our collective rights. Ethiopia now, until now, is paying a price just because it came to the front, but we are defending our collective rights. So we need to come together and we need to stand together. And we also, some months ago, suggested the lower riparian countries leaders summit to be called somewhere, maybe our brother in Uganda may call the summit, or any other country could say the initiative, but it's high time for us now to defend our rights. If Security Council somehow passes a certain kind of resolution which impedes further rights of us to use the Nile, then it would have a dire consequence upon all of us. In fact, there are some words which have been inserted which say the water security and other items which are not yet well defined by even the utilization of transboundary lines. So Egypt somehow tried to convince Tunisia. Now they collude in other forums, like being Arabs, but we Africans, we here in the East, we don't have other house to come together. Our house is Africa. Our house is here, then Africa has to stand together. There is nobody else to call so that we can collude and be buttressed. It is us, and it is upon us that we have to come together and defend our rights. So we just have to call you to share our burden and also to share our concern that unless we stand together, there is something spurious is going on somewhere. In some other countries, even though the effect also is not good for them, particularly for every upper riparian countries in the world, there are some words which are being deliberately inserted just because some other people thought this is Ethiopian matter to defend and not of their own. But we have to make it clear. So that's why we had to take this historic moment to bring the issue to your attention. Thank you. So
briefing that we have all the time come together. We have attended several briefings. We had hoped that there was going to be an outcome after these talks were taken over by the African Union, because in the beginning the talks were not being held in Africa, and we complained. I, for one time, I had an interview with one of the channels here, local channels in Addis, and I came up with an idea that why should these talks not being held in the continent where the water belongs and the Nile, the river itself, belongs to. Why was it being held outside the continent? So I was so glad that finally these talks were brought back home to the continent, and in fact to the African Union, which is a slogan of African problems needs African solutions. There are 3 countries, and all of us on the Nile Basin, we are in this continent. And this is a resource which belongs to this continent. And if there's anything, it should be resolved by this continent. I watched one of the interesting interviews which was given to President Museveni of Uganda by Al Jazeera news reporter. That interview encouraged me even to talk louder, because the interview was very clear, and I really thank President Museveni for that interview. All of us along the Nile, including Egypt, Sudan, and all of the 11 countries which constitute the Nile Basin, our focus should not be about who is doing what, but our focus should be to save the Nile itself, because if we just consist on the Nile that is flowing now, it is because many African countries, we are not industrialized, and to save the Nile, according to the wisdom of President Museveni, to save the Nile is when we, all of us, including our brothers in the north, should come together to make sure that the whole of Africa is industrialized, so that the Nile can continue flowing. Because if we are not going to save the Nile, given the poverty that our people are subjected to, and we will all get into the cutting of the trees and to turn them into the charcoal, we are going to chase the rains away from the whole area, and even the Nile itself can dry up. So our focus should be to look into how this Nile, we should treat it as a baby, all of us. The positions that are taken are not helpful, because if the African Union is doing the work, we are expecting the outcome from the African Union, because if the African Union cannot solve this problem, it is very simple. If somebody needs electricity only, the flow of the Nile will continue to flow. It is not blocked. The Nile will continue flowing. And the electricity is achieved to help some people who are in need of it. And the continuation of the flowing of the Nile will continue. And if the African Union cannot find a solution to this problem, then I don't know what solutions does the African Union have then. Because we are, all of us, we have problems. And we expect that our problems will find solution that the African Union has pledged to provide to all of us. This issue needs to be resolved, Your Excellency. This issue should not continue dragging on, because as I read this paper, the Nile is a natural resource, is a resource that benefits all of us. We should all benefit from it. And it should be the source of cooperation. It should be a source of celebration, that we celebrate that we have such kind of resource given to all of us. It should not be a source of conflict at all. We have the history of the Nile, which dates back to thousands of years. Even the Nile is mentioned in the Bible, as for us, some of us who are Christians, I don't know, also in other religions it might have been mentioned. But we know that the Nile was there a long time ago. The time of Moses, the Nile was there. The Nile served Moses. And the Nile should continue serving all of us. This problem should be resolved, Your Excellency. I don't know where Tunisia comes from, in what area does it now. Is it coming in as a member of the African Union, or it comes in what area? I don't understand. But I believe that all of us really look forward for the amicable solution to this issue, so that the region, the continent, and the world at large will just continue to live in peace and prosperity for every mankind. I just will stop here, Your Excellency. Thank you for the opportunity.
Find any reason, both divine or worldly reason, to justify what Egypt is asking for. Look, for Sudan, ask anybody on the ground, even ask the politicians privately. They all concur with you that this dam is their savior. Then again, they don't tell you why they are standing against and shouting more than Egypt. They've been complaining Ethiopia should give them the data because their dams are smaller and they will be concerned about their safety. That was the flag they've been raising.
Sudan.
Otherwise, they said, okay, it will save us from flood. They said, okay, we don't have to depend on the ebb and the flow of the river, because the river will continue flowing year in, year out. And then that lets them produce 3 times a year. And then again, we are selling them the power, and then once we keep on building, we'll sell them more energy cheaper. So they are benefiting more than what we do. Everybody knows. Politicians, youngsters, elders, everybody concurs with that. Even the ones who are now arguing openly, they confined privately. Because last year, there was a flood as it happened this year. So we sent some assistances. Every one of them said, you should have completed it earlier than now. So we asked them, so why do you block us to finish it then? Why do you openly encourage us like it used to be like al-Bashir's time? Even during, after even Hamdok came, you know, some year back, the Arab League had to come and then denounce the completion of the dam. So Sudan abstained. Of course, we all know what happened. And the other aspect, one of the requests of Egypt that we have not agreed yet, what they are asking us is Ethiopia should release water if somehow Egypt would face prolonged dry year and prolonged drought. Okay. Then if we build on this argument, does that mean Egypt believes this dam is their water bank? This was their water reservoir. Unless we have this dam, what will happen if we will face in the future prolonged dry year and prolonged drought? Whom are they going to ask? But because now we are building this dam, they are asking us to release water, even though rain stops to rain in Ethiopia for a decade. That Ethiopia has to continue releasing water from this dam. Whether it generates electricity or not, it has to be released. We say fine. So then that means you believe this dam is your water reservoir. Okay, for some bad luck. Fine. If you believe in that, why don't you urge us to complete it quickly? Because this dry year would begin maybe tomorrow. That's one question. The other question, okay, if you believe having a water reservoir in the form of dam would save you if we may face sometime in the future some prolonged dry and drought, why don't you help us to build another 2 or 3 or 4 dams? Because one of the dams could be dedicated to you. You see, they don't want us to begin the dam. They don't want us to finish the dam. And if we finish the dam, they don't want us to be as huge as possible. But once it's completed, they want us to release water, whether the rain comes or not. So it beggars all belief and description. You cannot have any earthly logic for this. But again, all the world seems to be fooled or somehow condemning such kind of spurious requests. Because if somebody expects you to release some water, at least you have to build it. You have to store it. So they don't want us to store it. Now look this year. They were complaining if Ethiopia fills this dam this year, they will suffer from water. But what happens is, we filled the dam in less than a month. Now if you go to the dam, it is almost 7 meters high above the level of the dam. It's huge water. Now they are releasing about 7 billion cubic meters to Mediterranean. So instead of releasing water to Mediterranean, what will happen if they let us fill it and encourage us to fill it? The thing is, Egypt does not want Ethiopia to stand firm on the ground and to be better off. So we have to live in squalor for them to enjoy monopoly and affluence. It's as clear as that. The thing that couldn't come to your mind to justify is what Sudan does. For Egypt, we understand. Okay, they don't want us to be better off. They don't want us to get out of poverty. They want us to remain a squalor in poverty. That means it makes us remain weaker so that we could be manipulated. That's one thing. Okay, we can understand. What we don't understand is that of Sudan. How come a country shoot itself in the foot? How come a government would serve against its national interest and collude with some other foe? Because we had never been a threat to Sudan. We always had been a helping hand to Sudan. So what Sudan does, it baffles. What Egypt wants is abundantly clear to us. The problem is the rest of Africa. When would Africa say, no, it is too un-African. It is against Pan-Africanism. So AU should not only handle the issue, but should stand firm and then, tell the truth. Tell the truth to Egypt, no, it's not African issue. It's not African spirit. Every country has to be supported to make the best use of its resources, to be helped as much as possible to uplift its people. Because it's only then that Africa can stand together. It's only then Africa cannot be looked down by every tiny country just because we are being given some alms. So if we wish to be as proud Africans as possible, we have to feed ourselves, we have to help each other, we have to bring betterment to our people. We don't have to seek for assistance from anybody. We are huge. We are 54 countries. We have endowed with a fate of resources. Just because we cannot help each other as we purport to do, then others could come and meddle us, and then we are still in shackles. So we in Ethiopia are trying to bring that spirit, but again, we are at the receiving of all sorts of pressures. Then we have to be assisted so that we can be extricated. Extricating Ethiopia from the shackles is extracting Africa also to go for the betterment. That's what we are asking for. It all goes with Pan-African spirit. It all goes with our forefathers when they brought together this African Union. That was their spirit. But 60 years later, we are still being meddled by every vested interest. And because we are not close enough yet, because we are not forging ahead enough. This project is, obvious. Had it been built somewhere else, it would have been celebrated by the world. Just because it is built here in the tiny region, in the weakest region, a poor region, and then we still have to be meddled around by every vested interest. So that's what's happening. And I think Egypt is actually representing that spurious interest. Otherwise, they should have been assisting us. Otherwise, they should have been helping us to fill the dam. Now this year we planted 5.2 billion trees. We are making sure that the rain keeps on coming. We are making sure that the Nile keeps on flowing. They do nothing. They keep on wasting Nile. The excess water, they release it to Mediterranean. The rest, they release it to their desert, as if they are in the marshland. They produce sugarcane, they produce rice. But for us, they don't even try to allow us to plant cabbage in our backyard. This is that obvious. Because that's why we are urging everybody, to come together and then say no to such kind of, shackling each other and sabotaging each other from bringing uplifting for our people. That is the only Pan-Africanist call, and then I think we have to say yes for that, and then we have to stand together. So I think you need to send it to your headquarters, I think, but again, we'll seek for your feedbacks as to when and how this upper riparian country should come together. Then, of course, if we prove that we can stand together, Egypt and Sudan will follow and then join us. But if we stand as we are now, nobody would care, because every one of us would fall prey. So that's what we are asking for.